Hello and welcome to the Daily Brown Bag. Today we're going to be talking about Dailymotion's claim that Google is unfairly placing YouTube results in the search results over their own videos. I'm Chad Hill and I'm joined by Adam Stetzer.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chad. Welcome to the Brown Bag. This is kind of a fun topic today because everyone likes a good controversy. And here we have Dailymotion making some claims that Google is pushing them around a bit. So who's Dailymotion? Well, they're a YouTube wannabe company, Chad, in Europe. And they are, I think, the #2 most watched online video site behind YouTube in Europe, but it's a far #2. But they're trying to make a run, and I'm not sure if this is a PR stunt or if there's something really here. So let's explore this today. Do you know the basis of what these claims are that they're making out of Dailymotion in Europe?
Yeah, exactly. I think what they're saying is that no one's really looking out for companies like Dailymotion who are competing against these Google subsidiaries who are being given this unfair kind of advantage in the search engines, or at least what they're claiming to be an unfair advantage in the Google search results. And so what they're saying is that these other companies like Google Maps and Google Local that competes with Yelp, that they're not they're being removed from the search results in favor of Google properties, and that's not fair.
Yeah, so that's an interesting backdrop right there. You know, companies like Google, a lot of cash in the bank, a lot of cash reserves and capital. They go out and make acquisitions, such as buying YouTube, because there's a lot of synergy between the companies, and they can cross-pollinate and they can increase profits. So that's the business case they use. But then from the competitive landscape perspective, it can start to feel a little bit like monopolistic behavior, and I think that's the setup that Dailymotion's going for here. You're using your strength to go gobble up these little companies, but then making the landscape so we can't be competitive. And this is where it gets very gray when it comes to anti-monopolistic sentiment, and I know the laws are quite different in Europe than they are in the U.S., but I guess it comes down to, you think any of these claims are really based in fact, or is this more just they're trying to get some PR?
Yeah, well, let's take a couple of just the kind of basic SEO 101 type of components and compare YouTube and Dailymotion. The one that most immediately sticks out to me and is very smart on YouTube's part is that every video you upload to YouTube, they actually behind the scenes create a transcription. And while most people watching videos aren't reading the transcription, what's really smart about that is that creates indexable content. Now, if you've ever read the actual descriptions and Google kind of tucks it away in a little tab, if you read it, it's horrible. You would never be able to use it because they probably get every 4th or 5th word wrong. But if you think about it, over the entire YouTube video, they're getting pretty good context about what it's about. And content is king, and especially content that the search engine can understand. And so that's a very, very important difference between what YouTube is doing and what Dailymotion's doing.
Yeah, and interesting, Chad. So do you think, someone at Google Search made a phone call one day over to YouTube and said, hey guys, you do a lot better in our search results if you had these transcriptions? And if that was the case, someone might say, well, that's where this becomes a little monopolistic. But I think if I was Google, I'd say, well, wait a minute, that's a really well-known fact, and anyone with half a brain around SEO knows that you need words because the search algorithm can't read video. So I think they would claim Dailymotion should know this and should be doing this. And I guess, Jeff, for that, from that standpoint, it's the same reason we transcribe all of our videos, and no one from Google called us and told us to do it. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, good point. And I think the second part of that is really just, whether or not there may be something, the second point, which is that obviously Google has a faster and more immediate connection to content on YouTube. So we know that especially on a big site like Dailymotion, and it is a big site even though they're distant to YouTube, that it takes a while for Google to crawl and gather information. So if you have breaking news coming out and Google has the hotline because they're in the same data center as YouTube, again, is this foul play, or is this just good business that they're able to get that information faster, get it in their search results, which is ultimately what the end user wants?
Yeah, well, this is really interesting. I mean, everyone likes the drama, and I think when it comes to monopoly, everyone loves to cry foul really quickly. But it's really hard to say here. I mean, on the one hand, I could see that there's just some tactics they're using. On the other hand, Chad, we know absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I've been really looking for some hard data that would help us sort this out. I haven't really seen it in this story. But we'll certainly stay tuned. And we've heard rumors along the way. Oh, if you have a big PPC account, Google might give you some preference, or it might take away a penalty that you've got. I mean, again, there's a lot of stories floating around the internet, but I don't know how many of them are really substantiated. In fact, very few are. So it's an interesting one. We'll keep tracking it. We'd like your thoughts and what you think's going on here. Do we see some antitrust or monopolistic behavior, or is Dailymotion, just pulling a PR stunt and getting everybody, including us here, to talk about it as the little two guy trying to scrape and crawl their way to #1? Drop us a comment. We hope you'll subscribe and join us for another brown bag.